The Netherlands has found itself in a complicated situation. A climate decision that was expected to be lauded by the world has been met with intense opposition by its own people. The Dutch farmers are out on the streets setting fire to haystacks and blocking distribution centers with their tractors. All this because of a new environmental rule on nitrogen emissions. The farmers claim that this rule has put their livelihoods on the line. They have called out this rule and they are calling on the protest to quote-unquote paralyze the entire country. After the Netherlands failed to meet its emissions reduction target, the government decided to announce a new way out. Nitrogen emissions are to be slashed by up to 70% in some areas by 2030. This depends on how close the areas are to nature conservation zones, but this could mean shutting down of about 30% of the livestock farms. So there are two terms that we need to understand here. What is livestock farming, and two, what kind of pollutants are produced by them? Livestock farming is a process used by farmers which includes animals. They are raised and domesticated for labor or to produce commodities like milk, eggs and meat. While this is a major source of income for the farmers, this comes at a cost, and which is an environmental cost. Raising livestock generates 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, ammonia. These are some of the major reasons behind climate change. For a cleaner future, balance between productivity, household food security and environmental preservation is crucial. The Dutch government calls this an unavoidable transition. The ruling coalition has announced an extra $25.6 billion to finance these changes. But for farmers, this leaves them with three options. One, to move to crop farming. Two, relocate to another location, or three, shut down their farms altogether. And with us on the broadcast this minute is Laura de Vries. She is the European Climate Pact Ambassador to the Netherlands. Thank you very much for being here with us. What would be the immediate challenges in implementing this rule according to you? And tell us more about why the farmers are so angry and out on the streets opposing this rule.
Yes, thank you. I think the biggest challenge will be getting the farmers on board with this plan, because of course it's really an impactful plan for them. It will change a lot for them. And also in the past, that's also one of the reasons that farmers are mad. We said to them, use sustainable farming and you will be okay. And now we see sustainable farming only is just not enough. So clean farming is just not enough. We also have to get rid of some livestock farms. And I think the biggest challenge will be getting them on board, because to move to a better way of farming and to move to more clean way of farming, we just need to get them on board. And they're just really mad right now. So that is going to be a huge problem. And the reason why farmers are mad, I already said one of the reasons, is also because there's really much nitrogen policy right now being focused on farmers. But of course, nitrogen is also emitted from, for example, the roads, from cars on the road, and from the industry. And the policy for them will only be revealed in about a half year. And they say it's not fair to only focus on us. Also, farmers are afraid there's no longer a place for them in the Netherlands because the policy is also harsh. And the Netherlands just is way too late with this policy, because we agreed to European policy on nitrogen way back, but we just didn't do enough. And we said to the farmers, just make sure you're using sustainable farming. So they bought a lot and they invested a lot in that. And now we see it's just not enough. So for them, they invested a lot of money, and now they say we may have to stop farming. And also, of course, farming is a way of life for them. Farming is just not a job. It's also a kind of way of life. And I think for them, it's really a big impact on their lives as well. And for them, it's really scary. Lastly, and of course there are more reasons, but also one of the reasons is they say that the way that the nitrogen emitted from farm housing is not from farms is not measured well. So they're doubting the measure methods, and they say it's not fair because we do not emit as much as you say we do because your measure models are not correct.
Break down for us the contribution of vehicular pollution versus construction industries versus livestock farming and the contribution that it makes. And some say that this rule suggests that farmers are easy targets.
Yes, thank you. Well, first it is really important to say that not all nitrogen emitted from the Netherlands ends up on the ground in the Netherlands. So most of it is blown abroad. So to other countries. And the Netherlands is therefore a really big export country of nitrogen. And the nitrogen that comes down on the Netherlands, that it precipitates in the Netherlands, is about 64% from Dutch agriculture and 6% from Dutch road traffic. And if you look at not only the emission on Dutch ground, then agriculture is responsible for 61% of total nitrogen emissions and road traffic for about 15%. I do have to say so that there are some discussions about the measure models. This is just what I found in most in a research.
What is the government strategy going to be from here onwards, according to you, and how do you assess their reaction to these protests? Would they be addressing the concerns of the farmers, trying to get them on the same page?
Well, farmers, I think right now the government is really focused on making sure that there are really good conversations between the farmers and the government. So they appointed a mediator who will negotiate with the farmers. But they did appoint someone where the farmers are not really happy about. So that's going to be a problem because if the person they're going to talk with is not a person they like already, then that's not a really big and not a great perspective for future talks. The Mr. they are going to talk with is called Mr. Remkes. And also really important to say that, like you already said, the cabinet says it will avoid buying of farms, but the strategy is focused on that farmers have to get cleaner or move to another part of the Netherlands, or they are talking about voluntary buyouts. And those three options are options that the farmers do not really like. And for the farmers, they say about these negotiations, there isn't even room because the government already said we are willing to talk with you, we are willing to negotiate with you, but our goals will stay fast because they just it's policy, it's law that they have to abide to, and they just can't. They just have to make sure the nitrogen is reduced. So they're saying the goals we have for the reducing of nitrogen will not be discussed, but we can talk about the how and we can talk about it with you. So that isn't a really good start for like a constructive talk with each other, I guess. It's really good, I think, that the government is focused on making sure that we have a livable planet. But I think for those constructive talks, it's really hard if you already don't like the person and there isn't room in the negotiation, and that's really hard for the farmers.
Laura, thanks very much for being here on the broadcast with us and sharing those perspectives.
Thank you as well.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.